Out in the country, close by the roadside, there stood a little farmhouse. In front of the house was a small garden with bright, painted railings. Just outside the railings, amidst the soft green grass, grew a little daisy. The sun shone as warmly and brightly upon it as it did upon the grand flowers inside the garden. The daisy was a happy little thing, content with its simple place in the world. It did not long for a spot inside the painted fence, nor did it wish for a different color or a taller stem. It simply grew, turning its small white face towards the warm sun and listening to the gentle hum of the world around it. It felt the morning dew on its petals like tiny kisses from the sky itself. Every morning the daisy would open its petals to greet the new day. It was a cheerful and contented flower, even though no one seemed to notice it. The people in the farmhouse rarely glanced down at the little weed growing by the path. The children would run past, their feet thudding on the ground, but their eyes were always looking ahead, never down at the simple white flower. Yet, the daisy did not feel sad or overlooked. It found great joy in the warmth of the sun's rays, which seemed to shine just for it, making its white petals gleam like polished pearls. It felt rich beyond measure, for it had the whole sky to look at and the entire day to enjoy the light. The daisy stood on its little green stalk, a quiet spectator to the bustling life of the countryside. It watched the bees as they buzzed from one clover to another, collecting their sweet treasures. It saw the butterflies flit and dance in the air, their wings like tiny, colorful sails catching the breeze. The daisy felt a part of this beautiful living world, even in its smallness. It was not a grand rose or a tall tulip, but it was a daisy, and that was enough. It was happy to be exactly what it was, a humble flower growing in the grass, feeling the earth beneath it and the sun above it, a perfect and complete existence in its own right. Its life was a quiet song of gratitude. The daisy did not know much about the world beyond its patch of grass, but it knew what it was to be happy. It felt the gentle breeze rustle its leaves and considered it a sweet whisper, a secret shared between itself and the wind. At night, it would fold its petals and sleep soundly, dreaming of the sun's return. There was no envy in its heart, no desire for more than what it had. Its world was small, but it was filled with immense peace and a profound sense of belonging. The little daisy was a testament to the idea that happiness is not found in being the biggest or the brightest, but in appreciating the simple gifts of life. The little daisy was never lonely, for it had many friends, though they might not have known it. The sun was its dearest companion, visiting every day without fail. The daisy would follow its journey across the sky, turning its face to catch every last golden ray. When the sun sank below the horizon, the daisy would patiently wait, knowing its friend would return with the morning light. It also loved the sky, which was a vast canvas of changing colors. Sometimes it was a brilliant, cloudless blue, and other times it was filled with fluffy white clouds that looked like herds of sheep grazing in a celestial pasture. The daisy found endless wonder in just looking up. Besides the sun and the sky, the daisy had another great love, the song of the birds. High above, a little lark would sing its heart out, its melody pouring down like a shower of silver notes. The daisy would listen with all its might, feeling the music resonate through its very stem. The lark's song was not for the grand flowers in the garden. It was for the open fields, the blue sky, and for any little heart that was open to hearing it. The daisy felt the song was a gift, a beautiful story told in a language that all of nature could understand. It was a song of freedom, of joy, and of the simple beauty of being alive, and the daisy drank in every note. The daisy did not need grand events to feel joy. The simple act of a dewdrop clinging to one of its petals was a moment of perfect beauty. It would hold the tiny sphere of water, watching it sparkle in the morning light like a diamond. The buzz of a passing bee was a friendly greeting, and the gentle sway of the grass in the wind was a pleasant dance. The daisy understood that life was not about waiting for big moments of excitement, but about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. Every minute was filled with something to appreciate, something to be grateful for, from the smell of the damp earth after a light rain to the quiet hum of the world at dusk. It looked upon the world with a pure and humble heart. It felt a kinship with the other blades of grass and the tiny buttercups that grew nearby. They were all part of the same green carpet, sharing the same sun and the same rain. The daisy did not compare itself to others or wish for a different life. It knew only contentment. Its happiness was not as deep as its own roots in the earth. Inside the painted railings of the farmhouse garden, there grew many proud and stately flowers. There were tall, elegant tulips dressed in fiery reds and sunny yellows, holding their heads high as if they were royalty. Peonies, with their countless ruffled petals, boasted of their size and their intoxicating fragrance, certain that they were the most beautiful flowers in the entire world. They stood in neat rows, preening in the sun, and competing for the attention of anyone who passed by. They would often whisper to one another about their own splendor, their leaves rustling with vanity and self-admiration. They were quite sure that they were the very reason the sun shone so brightly on this corner of the world. These garden flowers looked down upon the little daisy outside the fence. "Look at that poor common little thing," a proud peony might say to a neighboring rose. "It has no color, only plain white, and it is so small one can barely see it. How dreadful it must be to grow in the wild grass with no one to care for you." The tulips would stretch their long necks even higher, as if to distance themselves from such a lowly creature. They believed that true worth came from being cultivated, admired, and placed in a special garden. They could not understand the daisy's quiet happiness, for their own joy was tied to being seen as superior to others. The daisy, however, felt no jealousy or bitterness towards the garden flowers. It looked at them with genuine admiration and kindness. It thought the tulips were wonderfully bright and the peonies were magnificently grand. "How beautiful they are," the daisy would think to itself. "How lucky they are to be so tall and colorful. The garden must be a very joyful place with such splendid company." The daisy did not compare its own simple form to their elaborate beauty. It simply appreciated them for what they were. It felt joy for them, happy that such lovely things existed in the world. It did not see them as rivals, but as fellow flowers, each with its own unique beauty. This humble and kind spirit was the daisy's greatest strength. While the garden flowers were busy with their pride and their rivalries, the daisy was free to simply enjoy the world. It did not waste its energy on envy or discontent. Its heart was light and open, ready to receive the simple gifts of the day. The sun felt just as warm on its small petals, and the sky looked just as blue from its patch of grass. The daisy understood a truth that the proud flowers in the garden had missed. That true beauty and happiness come from within, from a heart that is content and at peace with its place in the universe, no matter how small or unnoticed that place may be. One day, the little lark, who usually soared high in the sky, flew down to the ground. It did not land among the proud tulips and peonies in the garden. They stretched their necks and rustled their leaves, hoping to attract the famous singer. But the lark flew right past them, over the painted railing, and landed in the grass right beside the little daisy. "You are such a dear little flower," chirped the lark. "You are so simple and sweet, with your white petals like a silver star. You look so happy and content here in the sunshine." The lark then hopped closer and gave the daisy a gentle kiss right on its center, its little golden heart. The daisy was so surprised and overjoyed that its petals flushed with a faint pink hue. It had never received such a compliment, nor had it ever been noticed by someone so wonderful as the lark. It had listened to the bird's song from afar, thinking of it as a gift from the heavens, but it never dreamed the singer would come down to speak to it. The lark's words were sweeter than any drop of morning dew. To be called dear and sweet by the creature whose music filled the whole sky, it was more than the little daisy could have ever hoped for. It trembled with a quiet, profound happiness that filled its entire being. The proud flowers in the garden watched this scene with disbelief and indignation. They could not understand why the celebrated lark would ignore their splendid colors and intoxicating scents to visit a common little daisy. "Why would it choose that insignificant weed?" whispered a tulip to a peony. "We are far more beautiful and important." They puffed out their petals and stood even taller, trying to show the lark what a terrible mistake it was making. But the lark paid them no mind. It saw the genuine, humble goodness in the daisy's heart, a beauty that was far more precious than any bright color or grand size. The lark stayed for a little while, singing a soft, private song just for the daisy. It was a melody of friendship and appreciation, a tune that spoke of the beauty of small, quiet things. The daisy listened, its heart swelling with gratitude. This moment was a treasure it would keep forever. It felt seen, not for any grand appearance, but for its simple, happy spirit. When the lark finally flew away, soaring back into the blue sky, the daisy felt prouder and happier than it had ever been. It was not the pride of the garden flowers, which was born of vanity, but a deep, humble pride that came from being loved for exactly what it was. A few days later, a terrible sadness fell upon the little daisy's world. It heard the lark singing, but the song was different. It was not the joyful, free melody that usually filled the air. This song was filled with sorrow and longing, a heartbreaking cry for the open sky and the green fields. The daisy looked towards the farmhouse and saw a dreadful sight. The little lark had been captured. It was trapped inside a small wicker cage that hung by an open window. The poor bird beat its wings against the bars, its beautiful voice now a lament for its lost freedom. The daisy's heart ached with a deep and painful sympathy for its dear friend. The daisy could no longer feel the warmth of the sun in the same way. The world seemed to have turned gray. All it could think about was the poor captive lark. It watched as the bird refused the seeds and water that two young boys had placed in its cage. The lark wanted nothing but its liberty. It wanted to fly over the green grass and sing its songs to the clouds, not sit in a prison, no matter how much food was offered. The daisy felt the lark's despair as if it were its own. It wished with all its might that it could do something, anything to help, but what could a small, rooted flower do? It had no hands to open the cage door, no voice to plead for the bird's release. Every day, the daisy would turn its face not towards the sun, but towards the cage at the window. It tried to send all its love and comfort to the suffering bird. It held its petals open, as if to offer its own simple beauty as a small solace. The daisy's fragrance, though faint, was carried on the breeze towards the window, a silent message of friendship and shared sorrow. It was a small, helpless gesture, but it was all the daisy had to give. It hoped the lark might sense its presence and know that it was not alone in its sadness, that a small friend on the ground was sharing its pain and wishing for its freedom. The proud flowers in the garden paid no attention to the caged bird. They were too busy admiring themselves and worrying about a passing caterpillar. The lark's sad song was just a noise to them, an interruption to their peaceful day. But the daisy's heart was filled with empathy. It understood that the lark's spirit was being crushed, and this knowledge was a heavy weight. The little flower, which had only ever known contentment, now learned the feeling of deep sorrow for another. Its humble existence was now intertwined with the fate of its friend, and it stood as a silent, faithful witness to the injustice of the captured bird. The days passed, and the lark grew weaker. Its sad song became fainter until it was only a soft, mournful chirp. The daisy watched, its own petals beginning to wilt with grief. It had given all its silent comfort, all its fragrant wishes, but it was not enough to open the cage. One morning the cage was empty. The boys had found the poor lark had passed away from a broken heart, and they had buried it in a little patch of earth. They cried for a moment, but soon forgot. The world moved on. The sun shone, the bees buzzed, and the proud garden flowers continued to preen, unaware and uncaring of the small tragedy. The daisy was left alone with its sorrow. Its friend was gone, and its small efforts to help had gone unnoticed by the world. No one had seen the daisy turning its face to the cage each day. No one had understood the silent messages of comfort it tried to send on the wind. It was just a common flower by the road, and the lark was just a bird. In the grand scheme of things, their story was small and insignificant. There was no reward for the daisy's compassion, no grand recognition of its empathy. It was simply left with the memory of its friend and the pain of its loss, a quiet testament to a kindness that no one else had witnessed. Yet the daisy's goodness was not meaningless. Though it could not save the lark, its compassion was a pure and beautiful thing in a world that often overlooks such feelings. The daisy had shared in another's suffering, and in doing so, it had shown the deepest form of love. It had offered what little it could, without any thought of reward or recognition. Its kindness was a tiny, unseen light in the darkness, a silent act of grace that mattered, even if only to the daisy itself. The little flower understood that true goodness is not about achieving a great victory, but about the sincere and humble desire to offer comfort and share another's burden. And so, the little daisy continued to grow by the roadside. It was a little sadder, a little wiser, but it was still a good and humble flower. It still turned its face to the sun, but now it also remembered the lark, its song, and its sorrow. The story of the daisy teaches us a profound lesson. It shows that even the smallest and most unnoticed beings can possess the greatest hearts. It reminds us that empathy and kindness are treasures in themselves, valuable even when they are not seen or rewarded. Small acts of love, silent prayers, and shared sorrows are what truly enrich the world, like humble daisies growing quietly in the grass, making the world a little more beautiful just by being there.